Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening to this podcast. This is David Valenzuela with I Wish Podcast. And what I wish for today is I wish that I could have Brittany Hagman as a guest on my podcast. And guess what? Today she's here. So if you have not liked or subscribed to our YouTube channel, take a moment to do that now. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, if you're listening to us on Amazon Music, I know there's hundreds of podcast platforms, you guys. Give us a 5-star, give us a thumbs up, give us a comment. Let us know what you liked about the podcast. If you are looking at this on YouTube, leave us a comment where you're looking at viewing down below. We'd love to know where you guys are watching from. On today's episode, we're featuring Brittany Hagman. Brittany is a self-built esthetician who had an acne-focused business in San Diego, BLH Beauty. We're going to talk about all things, how she built that into a six-figure plus business and how she is coaching aesthetic professionals now in 2024 moving forward and how they can actually grow their businesses and be successful as well. We're going to talk about all sorts of fun things in this episode. You guys are going to love it. So let's get into it.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I know, we, like you said, we're having a week-to-week podcast moment. And I love that. We were talking about last week, we schedule podcast things, then we make them happen a year later.
Yes.
And, when we're dealing with the level of schedules and kids and practicing and, just life, it is a lot to get people. So thank you for spending some time with me today. I appreciate it.
I'm so excited.
So Brittany, the first question we ask on the podcast is, what began your interest? Where did your interest in aesthetics begin?
Really, I had acne, severe acne as a teenager. And I mean, when I say severe, I didn't have cystic, but I had acne that nothing would help as a preteen teenager, going to the doctor and finally going to see estheticians. And I really loved the services of estheticians. I loved the treatment room. I loved extractions. I loved all. Of course, they never sold me products that actually did anything. But I really wanted to fix my skin. That was a big problem. And then I've always was interested in the beauty industry. And so it was always like a thing of mine, right? And if I had the confidence or the knowledge in high school that I could have a really successful, profitable career making real money as being an esthetician, I would have gone to esthetician school out of high school. Yeah. But I was from a family where going to college was super important and having a real job. And, of course, that perception was, esthetician would make minimum wage. So I went to college and it was my second career. But it's always been I've been watching beauty YouTube videos since, people started posting their get readies with me back, 15 years ago. So it's always been a passion of mine.
I love it. So I get into some heated debates with my business partner, Steven, who has this master's degree, went to Pepperdine. He's very educated. He did go to college in San Diego also. Jane, who I worked with at Dermalogica, I remember we were walking once we called it the canteen, which is where we had lunch. We were getting coffee and she said, David, she was having a meeting with HR in the morning. She's like, I'm not even educated enough to work here anymore, because we were having this conversation about, do we need people to have bachelor's degrees in order to come in to be in a sales position? And I had come from the place where I had worked from the ground up and I was like, well, it's about the personality type and the ambition over the degree, but it was just the influence that was happening at the time. And I keep saying to the up and comers of the world, you got to learn how to do something. So getting a formal degree is great. It was something I personally wanted to do for myself. I didn't feel like it was going to, give me some stratospheric intuition, right. But it was I feel like now as we shift in, parents looking at their kids saying, I want to go into aesthetics, they don't really know what that means. So I'm super excited to talk about all of the things that, part of your journey. So when you graduated from aesthetic school, so you obviously had some exposure, you knew what an esthetician was.
Yep.
Okay, so you're like, all right.
I was 30 when I went to esthetician school, then turned 31 when I was in esthetician school. So I had already had jobs. I left a pretty high-paying job at Target. I was an assistant store manager making really good money, really good benefits. I hated my job. We called it the Target trap because they paid you enough that it was really hard to leave and find a job where you make the same amount of money. And so I was just like, I'll leave it all. I'll go work and make minimum wage. I just want to do something that I really like doing. So I quit I had savings, I quit. I went to esthetician school, and then I was still in school about to graduate. I started just talking. The good thing about being older is I had a lot more resources and friends and networks and stuff. So I started talking to everybody. Like, I'm looking for an esthetician job, and my massage therapist in her salon suite, a woman, an esthetician, was looking to hire someone. So I interviewed with her, and I got the job before I even graduated school and got licensed.
I
As
love
soon as I
that.
got licensed, I was going to start. So
If you guys, so the new estheticians that are listening to this podcast, that was a very big piece of information that Brittany just dropped. Starting to
yeah.
look for opportunities and positions in your market, where depending on where you go to school, so that you could have an opportunity that you roll into when you graduate versus having to like wait and look around after you
Yeah.
graduate. I
And
love
I
that.
also, yeah. And I also, my good friend is a makeup and hair, bridal makeup hair person in San Diego. Her business, she's been going on for a long time, over 10 years now. So she also told me I could come and work for her and do makeup once I graduated. And so the spring, I went to school in the spring, and that whole spring, every weekend, I went and shadowed her. I worked for free. I shadowed her. I learned how to do airbrush makeup, which is what she does. I learned the whole. I would set up her kit for her. I would clean her brush it, and I would do all of the prep work, learn, and then eventually, as I graduated, she was ready to put me on with bridesmaids and eventually brides. And so I did makeup for the first 3 summers that I was an esthetician because it was good money and whatever. But yeah, so I had 2 jobs lined up, and I knew I was going to have money coming in, which was obviously super important, not just like graduating and being like, well, we'll see what happens.
Right. Yes. Well, so I had a gal, Jess, she owns the Body Bar 307 in Casper, Wyoming, and she talked about having a real job. Is that she was like referring to it. She's like, I worked for the gas company because I was pregnant and I needed to have insurance and benefits and all these things.
Right.
And she was actually renting a little space, like when I say space, like curtain hanging from the ceiling, like in a salon, and like doing waxing. And she said it occurred to me after like a year, I was making more money at lunch doing waxing than I was at my full-time day job, my normal
Right.
job.
Right.
So that was like the epiphany of like, oh, wait a minute, this actually is a sustainable business and I could actually transition.
Yeah, we'd make money.
I could make money. So Brittany, when you graduate from school, you're like, okay, I've got an opportunity to go into this space. How did you go about building your first book of business?
Well, the woman I worked for had a very big Yelp following. She was like number 1 Yelp in
Mm,
in that area. And at that time, Yelp was a big thing. So the first few months, of course, it was slow because people didn't want to come to me. But what I did was if I got a booking, I usually got bookings if no one could stay on her schedule, or if she had a small child, if she had to stay home with her child that day. So I would take over her books that day and then go in and work for her.
yeah.
I would just do the best service that they've ever had. So they
Yeah.
absolutely wanted to come back, So I think, and we just did peels and facials. It wasn't acne, but I learned about the importance of really listening and being present with your client, and I was not on my phone. I was not thinking about other things. I was really, really listening to what they were saying, what their skin concerns were, trying to actually find answers for them, creating relationships with them so that they wanted to come back. So eventually I worked there for a little over a year. I did have a clientele because I had relationships with people, I could provide them results, and they felt really comfortable with me.
I love that. So you just nailed something that's so super important and doesn't get talked about enough. Because we're so focused on providing amazing services and the products and the all the stuff and the bells and whistles. The relationship aspect between
Mm-hmm.
an esthetician and a client cannot be underestimated. The power
Mm-hmm.
of that,
Yeah.
actually, it's a human connection thing. Like it goes above and beyond what we can even like perceive. But
Right.
your relationship being present, something that again, obviously, well, we're going to talk about your education because I want to talk about that for a second, but before we forget it. But the conversation, the being present, the relationship that you have with your customer feeling seen, feeling heard, you're not on your phone. This
Mm-hmm.
is not something that's normal in our industry. So you're above and beyond, you had some customer service experience working with Target, right? You
Yeah,
knew how to
yeah.
actually, with whatever's going on in Target land. But in the aesthetic community, if somebody just went to high school, went to aesthetic school, and then is now having to deal with a customer service aspect of it, I saw somebody post in a Facebook group last night. They didn't know how to end. They didn't know how to have the conversation at the end of a service. It's like they're feeling
Mm,
uncomfortable. Like, I don't know how to ask for money. I don't know how to ask for another
yeah,
booking. I don't know how to ask for a product sale. I'm like, well, we're not going to ask for those things. We're going to of course, in my head, I was like, all right, this is,
yeah,
but the relationship piece to it, you cannot underestimate it because you
right.
are above and beyond providing an exemplary service. Your relationship with your customers will keep them coming back.
Yeah.
It's a very, very huge piece. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today. This episode has been generously sponsored by Wish Skin Health. Wish is focused on the holistic treatment of acne without the need for harmful prescription medication. If you are looking to level up your aesthetic business, we would love to have you as a certified Wish Pro. To learn how to join the Wish family, visit trywish.com. That's TRYWISH.com. Click on the Pro tab for further details. When you
Okay.
were looking at aesthetic schools, tell us how you actually started looking at it and what your options were and price points and all the fun stuff.
So, I was leaving a corporate job. I had a limited amount of savings that I had to live off of. And so I actually, it was funny because when I went to college at UC Davis and I had gotten out of when I graduated college, it was 2008 when there was no jobs. Like, I'm
Oh,
sure you remember 2008.
recession.
Some people
Oh,
who
yeah.
are listening do not remember because you were in high
Yeah.
school and middle school. But like I couldn't get a job at Pete's Coffee. Like I remember I went to I saw it at Craigslist, Pete's Coffee, and I went to go, it was like from like 10 to 2, come and you can have an interview on the spot or whatever. And there was like a line like 6 blocks long
Oh my
for
God.
like 2 jobs. I was in Sacramento at the time. I could not find a job. So eventually I got a job with a AmeriCorps program, which is like through the government, and you would get a stipend as well. You got paid nothing, but you got a stipend. So I had this like $2,500 stipend, which was wild because then I go start looking at esthetician schools, and I saw Bellis. I think Bellis is still in the San Diego area, and it was like $16,000, $17,000. And then another one, I forget the name of it, but it actually went out of business right when I started school. So all those people, they literally had
Mm-hmm.
nowhere to go. They were in school and it just closed. That was around 10 grand. And then I went to San Diego City, which was actually so close to where I was living. I was living in North Park at the time, and it was $2,500. And they accepted my stipend that I had. So all I had to
Right.
pay for was my living expenses at the time. And so it was like there was no other option. Like, it's either basically take a loan to pay the $17,000 one or use my stipend for 2,500. So I did that one. And
Did you, and this was a program that you, like, obviously it was an in-person program, or were you still working at the time?
I was totally off working. Yep, nothing going on. It was a Monday through Friday from like 8 to 5. Like the
Yeah. Yeah.
longest days of my life, because
Mm-hmm.
once the first couple weeks the learning is done and you're getting your hours, those people were just people just sit all day waiting to go home. That's all they're doing. And so I'm a little bit of a rebel. And so once we learned like the basic state words at the beginning of school, it was like the practice time. And so I would bring my makeup kit and do makeup on all the girls, whether they liked it or not. Like, who's doing makeup next? And it was bad at first, especially with airbrush. It's a whole technique, and people would like to go wash their face and be like super mad or be whatever. But I was like, whatever. I needed to practice. Like, I knew I needed to practice. We were sitting there, anything else to do. And then I also would call in favors from everyone I knew, come get a facial for me. And the skincare they used was Dermalogica, which is fine, but it was expired. It was like old stuff. So I
Yeah.
bought my own stuff. I don't remember what line I bought it from. It was fine. And I brought people in and I was like, I will pay the fee if you don't want to even pay the fee with like $20. And I did their facials and I got feedback, and I got a lot of tough feedback from my friends being like, that was weird. I didn't like what was happening. My husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, he came in Same thing, you know, I was like doing facials for anyone with a face was coming in for a facial. So I worked really hard during that time to develop my craft because it's either that or sit on my phone all day, like most of the class to just get
Yeah.
our hours, and I wasn't gonna do that. So that's kind of what I
There,
did.
you bring up a good point about the hours thing. And I know obviously with different schools are going to, some of the private ones are going to offer different education, but I do notice there's a lot of sitting
Oh
around
yeah.
and there's nothing happening. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
there's some education we could be providing here. What's happening?
Yeah, and the program, the woman who taught it, she had a heart of gold. She loved us so much. But she was a cosmetologist. She'd
Yeah.
never worked as an esthetician. She didn't know anything about skin. And
Mm.
then the director of the program, like that's why I said I was rebel because she hated that I brought my own line in, and I was like gonna get like in trouble for that. But I was like, I'm not these crappy products on my clients, on my friends. But and she was like, it. That was one of the things that I had learned that my age served me well because I think if I'd been 18, I'd been like, this is a ridiculous program, and I'm not learning anything, and I would have been very um like I would have let the fact that they weren't teaching us anything be the main thing of the
Yeah.
whole experience versus it's like they're not teaching us anything. I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna figure out a way to learn. Yes, I don't respect the administrator. Yes, my sweet and wonderful loving teacher doesn't know anything, but I'm gonna figure it out. Like I'm not gonna like let this time just pass and hoping that I'll come out on the other side and be able to get a job. Like I'm gonna make this happen for myself. And so I think, when we're in those situations, I had bad jobs in the past. I had horrible bosses. So I knew how to like grin and bear it and get through it to get what you need to get done. And so I just did
Mhm.
that again in this situation.
You're like, I'm going to focus on the positives in this equation and figure out
Yeah.
how I can actually gain something out of this education. You guys, that's a learning nugget.
Yeah.
Wherever you're going to school. So, there are a lot of new estheticians that listen to this podcast. I love them. I love the emails. I love the direct messages on Instagram. I'm like trying to keep up with all the direct messaging. Thank you guys. I love it. I'll always going to respond. But everybody, you guys were, depending on what state you are living in and you're listening to, you're getting a different education based off of your state board and what's being required of your personal state. And, we have programs all across the country, varying hours based on the state that you live in. So
Mhm.
also that's a tidbit, you guys, there's no reciprocity in the United States. So if you do your licensing in Georgia and you want to move to California, it's not just a straight transfer. So just FYI, you got to actually go and apply for your license again in the state that you want to practice in.
Yeah.
I've had that a couple of times. People take the course and they've moved and they're like, oh, David, I have to do XYZ now to get my license. I'm like, it's a consideration, especially
Yeah.
also when you're building a service-based business and all of that understanding, like it's all a good thing. So Brittany, moving, obviously, do airbrush makeup is when you were spraying with that little gun thing, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes, I remember that was like a moment of like everyone getting airbrush makeup. Celebrities are like, oh, spray, the whole thing.
Yes. Big thing.
And it
Mhm.
is, I've seen some really flawless looking airbrushed makeup that's like stunning.
Yes. Well,
Um,
this stays on really good too for
yeah.
women.
So if you know how to do the application, you obviously point of difference, you're doing something above and beyond. So after having your experience in your first location where you're taking clients, someone's not able to come in, you're getting those clients. When did you decide to go out on your own? Like what was the determining factor for I'm going to go open my own studio?
So about a year to be an esthetician, I was get married and my wedding was coming up and I wanted a little extra money. So I applied to work, I got permission from the one I worked for to work at a day spa in San Diego to earn extra money and they focused on acne. That was the
Mm,
thing that they focused on. So I learned all the acne. I became certified, and also someone who also had come from always having acne. I was like, I don't believe this. This is kind of like, but then I kept seeing people actually getting results. So
yeah.
it was like a click in my brain. Like, this is what I want to do. I don't want to just do facials all day, massage and whatever. I want to do acne.
Yeah.
And so I went to the one I worked with, and her and I worked very closely together. I had a really positive time working there. So I want to do acne. And she's like, I don't want to do acne. And I was like, what if I bring it on? And there was no solution that we both wanted. And so I was like, okay, I said, you can go on your own. You can take all your people with you because she can never accommodate her own clients. So she was very generous. And so that conversation was in September 2017. I went found a place from October 2017. I opened my doors. And I probably had about 15 people, 10, like every single month, 15 people that came for facials. So I had just enough money to cover my costs. That was really important to me with the current clientele I had. And so it was kind of a tricky time for me because I was still learning acne, learning the protocols, learning how to troubleshoot all the things. And and a lot of my facial clients, they did have acne, and that's why they liked me because I understood them. I had empathy for them. And so I was really trying to convert my current facial clients to this whole different world of acne and then just finding new acne clients. And so that's kind of where I was at the end of 2017, beginning 2018, and really trying to grow acne nugget of my business.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so that's what I focused on all of 2018. You want to tell you exactly how I did that, or
Well, so there's obviously a lot of people that have interest in acne that listen to this podcast. Thank you guys. I know the acne world, we're preaching about it nonstop every day.
yes.
But the one of the reasons why I thought it was going to be there's a couple things you guys were going to get into about what Brittany's doing now and such, but the premise behind this podcast is that we're always going to feature somebody that has had some level of success in the aesthetic space in the industry by doing something. So the goal is to share best practices, like how do we start from scratch? When did you had acne yourself? So I would love to hear, you making the determination like, okay, I'm going to focus on acne. What that
Mhm,
actually looked like from that standpoint, then you're like, okay, I'm going to start focusing on acne. I'm going to get certified. I'm going to start literally honing my craft
mhm.
and giving people results. Tell that story because that's
Yeah,
amazing.
so a big part of I think a big part of really succeeding in the acne world was I believed it was gonna work, which I know
Hmm.
sounds like super cheesy and super like manifesty, but I just was like, it's gonna I'm going to figure it out. And I had known that about myself also from being the age that I was and having a job, all the things. I knew that if I put my mind to something, I'd figure it out. So I talked to everyone that I that knew I did acne. It was all I talked about. It was like, and it wasn't just like I need people. Do you know anyone who has acne? I was super excited about it. I was super passionate about it. I was so happy to talk about it. It was like you couldn't get me to stop talking about it. It wasn't like I was kind of scared and nervous and like not really knowing how to talk about it. So that was a really big part of it and my belief in myself. And then practical things like asking for referrals, asking people, my current clients, do you know anyone who has acne and starting this acne program? I was running Yelp ads. I would say like when I looked at my numbers at the time, Yelp, had some good traction with Yelp ads because you could advertise before and afters. And I had one before and after, and it wasn't super significant. And I didn't even do it on the acne program I learned. It was on my previous stuff that I did. I had one before and after. So
Yep.
I used that picture as much as I could. And so you could do that with a Yelp. And then I advertised very little also with Instagram. And then it was like and a third of my clients was referrals, talking to people, putting myself out there, and just like my own excitement of it.
Yes, which is you uncover. So the magic, you guys, of all the stuff that Brittany just said is she decided to focus on something,
Mm-hmm.
get all the information she could, knowledgeable, talk to everybody that was treating acne, any experience, any exposure to really focus and hone your craft. And, Brittany, since we started, even before we started doing the podcast and we were just doing industry webinars and like all of the years that I've been speaking in aesthetic schools and any summit or any industry related event, part of my presentation has always been about focusing on something.
Yes.
It could be lashes, it could be waxing, it could be brows, whatever it is, whatever your jam is and you feel you love it and you want to do it all the time. There's different aspects to each one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And when you approach it from a business aspect and you go, okay, when you're focused on something and you can master it, you
Mm-hmm.
master your craft about something, clients are willing to pay for mastery not
Yep.
something that they can learn through a Google search or, I saw this on TikTok and this worked for this girl. Like, it's a different day in aesthetics. Like, people are expecting mastery, which means you've got to be really educated in your craft.
Mhm.
So as we sit here now in 2024 and people are kind of vacillating about what I do, we're working with a new esthetician in the Central Valley right now, and she is she does waxing. And she's
Um,
like, well, I don't want to give up my waxing clientele. And I'm telling her, I'm like, you don't have to give that up. But what I'm telling you to think about right now is your retail opportunity with waxing and your retail
mhm.
opportunity with lashes and your retail opportunity with brows is going to be very different from doing
Oh,
a traditional facial or doing an acne treatment where your products are not an option as part of your clearing process. And
right.
there's like light bulbs across the board.
Yeah,
Like, oh, I didn't think about it like that because yes, you could do a Brazilian in a relatively short period of time and there's a good return on your time money
sure.
wise, but you're not. I mean, there's a couple products obviously you can sell for Brazilian, but it's not like somebody going home with a full routine that they're going to every 45, 60 days need to be repurchasing.
Right.
So I love that the wisdom that you just dropped about I talked to everybody I knew and to get as
Mhm.
much information I could and get as much education as I can to go
Mhm.
into acne. And you're like, all right. So your business, obviously, with your one, and everybody's always like, I gotta have a bunch of before and afters in my Instagram page. And I'm like, listen, everybody had to start somewhere with one post. You get one client clear, you get their permission, you use their before and afters, you start promoting it, posting it. People love a before and after. I actually, total sidebar, I went to Facebook. They
Nice.
actually had me come to the campus, which is weird because this never happens now because there's no like real people you ever interact with
Right.
as a
Right.
person, as a business or a consumer. Because of with our time with Face Reality, we're like, how can we sponsor a post? We want to be able to show before and after results.
Yes.
So what we found out was the weight loss industry ruined it for everybody
Sure. Yeah.
because people were posting, I lost 30 pounds in 3 days, and everyone was clicking through and like trying to buy some stupid vitamin that was bullshit.
Yeah.
So they ruined it. So they're like, it ruined it for everybody. It ruined it for plastic surgery. It ruined it for dentists and teeth whitening. It ruined for the aesthetic community. Basically, what I was told was we want users to have a positive experience. And when you show somebody, basically, they were trying to justify why you couldn't do a sponsored post before and after. Now, you guys, that doesn't mean that you can't post a picture, that you couldn't put something in your story, or that you can put it in your grid on your or Facebook or TikTok. It just means that you can't sponsor it or pay to advertise
Right.
that stuff. So you can still talk to your audience and still gain more traction with showing your before and afters. You just can't pay to promote it. It
Mhm.
was very eye-opening. Also, now in 2024, there's zero people doing anything with any of your posting. It is 100% all artificial intelligence
Oh yeah.
that is
Oh yeah.
reviewing posts. So, case in point, last night, you don't do this. You guys don't listen to me. I'm always like scrolling through, like making sure like what's going on, who needs to talk to me, what's happening before I go to bed. Not a good practice. And I saw a post on Instagram that we did. It was 2020 or 2021 that they've just now flagged for one of the images in the post, which was like stock photography of like ingredient imagery, has been
Uh-huh.
licensed by somebody. And so it's now been flagged for like delete. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's
Seriously.
2024. That's 3 years ago. And we're now, whatever. So yeah, I don't. What is your advice, Brittany, right now? So as you started like Yelp, having good Yelp reviews, and you're starting to focus on acne, like we're going to get into what you're doing now, but what do you advise people right now from an advertising perspective? How do you approach that, especially with the newer people that are like have a limited budget?
Yeah. I don't actually even teach advertising as a thing that you need to do now because there are so many other ways. That was my first year. But my second full year in my business, I really leaned into marketing, which is
Mhm.
free, right?
Yeah.
It's free to
Yeah.
do. And so I one of the things that I did was I really paid attention to people in other Instagram accounts that were not estheticians, what I liked and didn't like, what I personally found interesting, what I
Mhm.
responded to, what I would stop scrolling to pay attention to. And then I would just use that on my
Love it.
business. So an example is I had seen an ad it's so funny you're talking about teeth thing. I had seen an ad for a teeth whitening. I think it was must have been teeth whitening. And it was a local San Diego business, and they had like a certificate. And the person was smiling with a big white smile and was like, I just got my teeth whitened or something like that. So I was like, I can do that. So I created, I don't know if you've seen it on my website, on my BLH Beauty website, but the Boring Skin Club, I actually trademarked it so no one else could trademark it and then say I couldn't use it. And
Smart.
so when my clients would graduate and have clear skin, and I have that in quotes because obviously there's such thing as perfectly clear skin, but their skin had improved dramatically, I would give them a certificate with their name on it. I had it all printed out, ready to go. And I'd give them either bottle champagne or bottle sparkling cider. We'd take a picture together and I put that on my Instagram. And I'd still have the before and afters as well, but I really focused on the person and the story and their experience. And it you know, all the other things that I teach in my consulting business, but really like talking to my clients, being really educational in a non like overly esthetician way, you know, just really connecting with people on Instagram. And by the time, you know, people started seeing me coming in, they were new clients. They knew about the Boys and Club. They knew how everything was going to work. They knew they had to give up dairy. Like it was all there. That it was like they were on ready to go. There was no convincing. There was no. It was just like easy peasy. It's easy to clear those people. It's easy to work with them. And so my first full year of business, I did $76,000 in revenue, and then my second full year, I did 112, and
Love it.
46,000 of that was products.
Love it.
So
Exclamation point.
yeah, I sold a ton of products, and I still sell products, but I haven't seen someone in person in over 4 years. And I
Love
still
it.
sell products to people that I saw 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago now. I don't sell as much products as I used to, but I still sell a good amount of products. And so I really, you don't have to advertise to grow your business. You have to learn how to connect with people in a way that they will be excited. I still do. Like I'm on a mall, you know, Instagram account. They do something that I think is interesting or funny. And then I use that exact same idea on my posts. And so I think, what I see a lot in the esthetician community is estheticians share other estheticians' posts. The same information gets circulated. People are afraid of then posting because they're afraid of copying what an esthetician did, which I agree, don't copy them and post. But you can copy someone who's, you know, advertising a cabin or something and like how they did a thing with the video or whatever. You're like, that was a really
Yes.
cool. I got really excited about going to see that cabin. How can I use that same idea in my business? Or whatever. I mean, the ideas are endless out there. So I learned marketing. I took a little marketing class. I learned marketing and I just kept trying and seeing what would work. And then one didn't work and I just kept doing what worked and didn't do what didn't work, kind of.
Right. And built your business. So
Yeah.
you guys, pearls of wisdom, because you hammered something that was amazing, which was it did need to cost a lot of money. It doesn't need to cost a lot of money. And the real results from real people focusing on what you're going to do. So you've got clients, you're working with them, you want to basically take that opportunity and maximize it. So
Mm-hmm.
you also said something that was really key. There's no such thing as perfectly clear skin. Hello, hallelujah, you guys. It's true. We all have skin. And, you know, even as the founder of an acne brand, like I will occasionally, you know,
Yeah,
it happens. It happens to all of
totally.
us.
Yeah.
So the perception of like, you know, I know people respond really well to Proactive was really great at it, showing like dramatic, you know,
Yeah.
usually moderately to severely inflamed acne. And then they're 90-day later, pick 6 months later, whatever, airbrushed makeup, you know, the whole thing
Mm-hmm.
for the shock value of it. But when you start sharing real stories, real people, the Boring Skin Club, I love it. I love all of those things because they're unique. And I also, you know, another great pearl of wisdom there is I don't look at other brands in our space, what they're doing, marketing, advertising. I don't
Never.
look at it. I
Never.
actually follow smart people
Uh-huh.
and I follow intelligent brands that are not in our space. And I
Mm-hmm.
will retool whatever the messaging is or how they position something and then retool it. I'll wishify it and
Mm-hmm.
retool it. But you guys, there's a saying about there's no such thing as a new idea.
Right.
It's just modified, personified, shined, polished up, and then you push it out as a different version of whatever it was that you saw. So taking inspiration, the thing that we have to remember is we're all consumers. We're all being advertised to all the time. And what Brittany said was super key was, what did I pay attention to? What did I stop scrolling? What actually got my attention to say, oh, I actually like that. Those are the things that you want to incorporate in your own business because you're like, yes, this is amazing. So, Brittany, since starting, you're in the aesthetics world. How do you feel aesthetics has changed since you started? Like, what do you see right now from when you started in 2016 to now? What are you observing that has changed in our industry?
I mean, I think my perspective has changed more than anything because I've kind of done the gamut now in the industry. If
Yeah.
you had told me in 2016 that I would have had a $100,000 plus business a couple years later, that I would have helped all these people with acne, that I would have eventually had a consulting bit, like I would have like, you are lost your mind, you know? So I didn't even really have, all I wanted to do was help people with their skin is all I really wanted to do. And I still feel like I can do that, which is really my dream come true. But I think that I think what's happened is there are a lot more people coming out on their own and as business owners. I think people didn't do that as often,
Yeah.
10 years ago, 20 years ago. It was like you worked for other people, estheticians. I remember when I was deciding to become an esthetician, I was having lunch with one of my good friends in San Diego, and our waitress like overheard me talking about it and was like, good luck. There are hundreds of us. There's not enough jobs. You're not going to be successful. She literally told me. My friend was was a cosmetologist and hairstylist. And she looked at me. She's like, just ignore her. And I was like, I'm going to prove her wrong. Like I'm not going to
Yes.
let some waitress who can't figure out how to become an esthetician tell me what I can and can't do.
Right.
And so I think there's just lucky people jump into owning their own business much faster than people used to do. People used to, like, it was forbidden. You would always work for someone first. And I know that one of my clients, like, they could not get hired because they were out of high school and right out of esthetician school, no one would hire them. And they opened their own business because that was the only option. So I'm not saying, like, it's a horrible, don't ever do. I think that's sometimes just the path people are on, but I think that people wanting to own their own business is a much more common thing now than it was before.
It's so so you guys, the barrier to entry to starting a business in aesthetics is actually not as high as people think it is. But if you want to start an LLC, one of the things I gripe about in California is, we're paying this $800 tax every year, regardless. I'm like, what? No other states, Georgia, I think we paid like $40 a year to renew it, whatever. It's a whole nother Oprah podcast. But the idea here is like, setting up, even if you're a sole proprietor or, we have, Brittany, a lot of people graduate from the course and they haven't got their aesthetics insurance yet, which is a prerequisite. You're going to be doing chemical peels. You have to have insurance. So like these types of things, or your business license or your resale certificate, like the things that are like part of a normal business, no one's teaching. Well, you're going to have to get this to have your own business. So you got to other things. But the idea, I tell a story about the girl that borrowed the $30,000 from her dad to get the hydrofacial machine, who's sitting in the treatment room with no clients and is now like, what am I going to do? What do I do? And I'm like, that was the wrong order of operation for what you're doing. We don't spend the money on the modality before we have clients that can actually support the payment of your dad or whoever you're financing or whatever. Like these machines get very expensive. It gets a little crazy. I think that I've been in it for a long time, for a long, 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 long time. And what I see now in aesthetics is going to like a trade show. There's more modality options than have ever been available before. And I think that you guys, there's a space for modalities in our industry, but your hands are the ultimate modality, and don't ever discount what you can provide with your hands before you start spending a bunch of money in things.
I would agree.
Can get very expensive very quickly. And specifically when you're focusing on acne, you don't need a whole lot of things. Like you can make your stuff happen relatively without those things. So let's get into a little bit about, let's talk a couple more acne focused things, and then we're going to talk about what you're doing right now. What are some ingredients, Brittany, that you love specifically, having worked with so many acne clients, that you love for treating acne, that you know are like, you're going to need these things in your routine in order to get yourself clear, going down the clear path?
I mean, mandelic acid and some peroxide.
Right? I
I mean,
mean, right.
that is the magic. And the right amounts of it, not teaching, you can just give someone that and they won't, their acne will not, nothing will happen because they're overusing it, they're underusing it, they're not using it the right way. They're doing what I like to say, with benzoyl peroxide, spot treat and just playing whack-a-mole with their acne,
Yes.
And so, yeah, I mean, mandelic acid. I had heard about benzoyl peroxide. I'd heard of salicylic acid. As this consumer before I became an esthetician. I even in school I had learned like calling salicylic and benzoyl peroxide. I had never learned about mandelic. Mandelic is just like the white horse, I
Right.
really love it as an ingredient. I think, especially because my skin is like, I talked about this on my podcast, but I have sensitive skin, even though it's
Yeah,
not a real thing,
I
apparently.
know.
But
Right. Well, in the dermatology world, it's not a real thing. It's a real thing. They just can't put their heads together to come up with a clinical definition of it.
yes, but salicylic acid is very irritating to my skin, and mandelic, I can tolerate it all the time. Like, it doesn't bother me. And so I knew if I could use mandelic and my skin actually really liked it and thrived, I knew it would work for most people's skin. Of course, for some skin people, they did better in salicylic, better in glycolic, but I love it so much.
100%. So you guys, mandelic acid from a technical standpoint is considered it's a very large molecule. So it penetrates the epidermis very, very slowly, unlike
Mhm.
glycolic acid. So if you want to compare and contrast, glycolic, very, very small, goes in super quick. We
Definitely.
were actually, there were some comments in the Wish chat last night on Facebook about a client treating a high fits client wanting
Mhm.
to use glycolic. And she's like, I've only been practicing for 2 years. And why would you recommend salicylic acid over glycolic acid? And so I was explaining, you know, beta hydroxy acid versus alpha hydroxy acid. But the
Love
point about mandelic acid is because it's so large, it doesn't create any more inflammation in the skin or
Yeah.
irritation. You're already dealing with an inflamed skin. We don't want to do that anymore. And obviously we make varying percentages based off of where you're at in your clearing journey. But it's a hero ingredient and it's not going to go away. We're going to see a lot more products featuring mandelic acid in them, which I love that.
Love it.
Um, so Brittany, let's see how quickly the time goes by. My gosh, like
Yeah.
literally we could jump for hours. Tell everybody. So okay, so you're had a successful practice. You're like, okay, I've got this down. I've got this down. Tell everybody what the transition was into get you into what you're doing now, and what you're
Yeah.
providing now. Like, tell us how that transpired.
So my husband, this whole right after, let's see, I got married in 2018. He quit his job at Target. We met at Target, and he wanted to become a pilot. And so he was going to school for that, and I was supporting us, and then he was working, getting hours, and we both were. It was just kind of like we were both just hustling in our world. At the same time, he really wanted to have a baby. Probably not the best timing for our careers, but we finally got pregnant, and I found out I was pregnant January 2020. And so we always knew when I did have a baby that we would be moving back up north where I grew up, where my parents live, so they could help me because my husband's demanding schedule being a pilot and all the things. So I got pregnant. So I knew the plan was that we were going to move end of summer 2020. So, you know, living life, doing normal stuff, and then COVID,
Right.
March, literally a month later, my business shut down. California, I think it was shut down for 7 or 8 months. I don't even remember now. It all kind of feels like a blur. So we moved sooner because my husband also, the same day I found out I was pregnant is the same day that he got his start date at a regional airline.
Mm.
which was like a big goal that he had been working really hard for. So we were just so excited. He was going to go to the regional airline. We were going to have a baby, like all these great things. Then he lost his job with the regional airline. Well, he was technically, what's it called? When they furlough you. He was technically furloughed.
Yeah. Because of the
Because he
pandemic.
literally had just arrived at
Oh,
training and then everything
oh,
shut down. Like, all had to go home. It was really, really hard. And so we moved to the Bay Area much sooner than I expected in April. And I was just like hanging out sick and pregnant. I was so sick.
oh.
And I was still selling products to my clients in San Diego. And I had my online, I already had an online store and creative. So I was just kind of doing that. But then other estheticians that, even though I've always, like, when I was in San Diego, I knew few estheticians that did acne because I just kept my head in the sand and paid attention to my clients. The same thing with me in my esthetician coaching business, where I really don't know about my competitors because I purposely don't pay attention because it doesn't help me. So
Yeah.
people would reach out to me, ask me business questions. And so I was like, oh, well, I mean, if you want, we can do a call. And so I started kind of learning what the same kind of problems people were having. So I did all of that up until I had my baby in October 2020. And then about April 2021, I started working again, very, very, very part-time with a few of my esthetician friends that really needed help. And it kind of just springboarded from there.
Yeah.
And then we
Yeah.
moved to Georgia almost a year ago. So I knew that, like, I knew set up a place in Walnut Creek. I knew it wasn't permanent, and this Georgia's not permanent. So one day I hope to get back in treatment room for like at least one day a week. But until then, I'm just doing this. This is all virtual, and I'm not living anywhere permanently.
Yeah. You're like moving the life of being married to a pilot.
Yes, not
You
my
know
favorite.
that it is the pandemic. I know it feels like we've all tried to purposely block it out of
Yes,
our consciousness because it was
blur.
unknown. There were so
Yeah.
many. I have some clients actually that I worked with all the way back in my Aveda days, and they were I was going to say Fulton County. That's in Georgia. Hello. It was up in Northern California. Like, what's the county? San Jose. I can't think of the name of it right now. They were
Oh,
closed for 9 months.
yeah.
And I had clients that had 3 locations, and she's like, David, this is before the PPE loans and all the stuff that came out.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of things that came out of the pandemic for the service industry, people had to let their staffs go. Like, they couldn't pay their anything, their leases. They're like, it was a big
Big
shit show, for
problem.
lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But it spawned a lot of, there are things that we did. We made decisions because we had to, not because we're just vacillating around like, oh, what am I going to do? That would
Right.
be nice. We had to make decisions on how to move things forward,
Mm-hmm.
regardless, based off
Mm-hmm.
what kind of, I mean, you were pregnant at the time. So you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, do I go outside? Do I talk to people?
Oh, yeah. I just stayed in my house.
Because nobody knew. And
Yeah.
it was a scary time. And I'm glad, but it actually took you into your next chapter so
Yeah.
that you could do. So you guys, one of the things, so again, I'm always preaching focus and niche down and like focus on your passion and really master your craft. One of the things I love about Brittany is that she has a focused consulting business.
One minute.
So she is helping other practitioners that are focused on acne
Yeah.
really excel at their craft. We have some Wish clients that work with Brittany that are very complimentary about that, which I want to talk to you about one of them offline because she needs a little help with how she's factoring in her retail
Okay,
instead of
great.
ordering, like paying for priority shipping all the time. I'm like, you need to stop paying priority shipping and get your inventory situated so that you're not wasting money on shipping. We'll
Yes,
talk
I know
about that
exactly
offline.
what you're talking about. Yep. 100% on
So
page.
Brittany, talk to us about, so a client has decided, or they're working with acne, or they may be deciding to work with acne. Talk to me
Mhm.
about your process now, about how you actually go about coaching them. Like, I know everyone's at a different level and different skill set.
Yes.
So if you're listening to this, what I would actually encourage you to do is to do a little bit of research about, if you are going to decide to partner with a coach, work with a coach, interview multiple coaches. Like, what I
Mhm.
see a lot of advertising going on right now, there's a lot of marketing courses for $250 and retail
Yeah.
courses for $500 and this and this and this and this. And while I love all the extra education and everything, what I'm always going to refer back to is people that have actually done it or built something from scratch that can actually
Yeah.
come from a place of experience
Yeah.
And, you know, I've seen a lot of crap over the years that doesn't work. I've seen a
Yeah.
lot of crap. I mean, I've been involved in multi-million dollar product launches that didn't work.
Yeah.
Um, and, you know, it's our wisdom that you can take and actually move forward to avoid some of those pitfalls in the
Mhm.
industry. So
Right.
give us a little, so somebody's like, okay, Brittany, I want to work with you. Like, what's the process? How do you go about
Yeah.
deciding what are the next steps for a acne
So
focused
actually, I
person?
work with all estheticians now, not just acne, but though most of my clients do acne,
Yeah.
because I do know the acne business. But I really work with estheticians that are newer in their business, that are trying to build their clientele, that are not making money. Is really kind of my even some of my clients, they have clientele, they still aren't making money.
Mm.
So a big part of so the way you start working with me is you can do a free discovery call where we sit down. I talk to you about your business. It's like a Zoom call essentially, and I should make sure we're a good fit. And then it's a 6-month program. We meet every week for half an hour. And in that time, and we also DM and email. In that time, like the first thing we do is a business assessment. So I'm making sure that you're making actually money, seeing how you're spending your money, making sure like if you're making a profit, why you're not making a profit, if you're overspending, if you're buying things you shouldn't be buying, which is the case of most estheticians. Most estheticians have debt. They're buying a bunch of things because they're not making money. So they think the solution is to buy a new device, invest in a new skincare line, invest in this, versus like they're not charging enough money, or there's all these other reasons they're not making money. They're not selling enough products. So we kind of figure that out. And then from there, we really focus on what we're going to do next and do step-by-step plan. So a lot of that is marketing. I work with people to click on their marketing, help them write posts, captions. They have a workbook that they use that has 10 daily growth activities that I did to grow my business in San Diego, as well as mindset work. Because mindset is so important, and the exact same mindset practices that I did then and I do now. As well as I just added into the workbook anti-spiraling techniques, because I know with estheticians, all business owners, I know, something happens, someone no shows, someone cancels late, something happens in your business that's really frustrating, and then you spiral, right? You're just like, I'm never going to make any money again, or a payment comes up you weren't expecting, and it's just kind of this, you lose it emotionally. And it's really hard to get out and market and talk about your business and talk to people and go on Instagram or whatever if you're like panicking about your business. So a big part of what I do is kind of those 3 different, parts, where it's the actual business strategy, looking at numbers, understanding how things are working in your business, making decisions to make more money, all the things, marketing, putting yourself out there in a way that's authentic to you, that's sustainable, that's easy to do, and then the mindset work behind it to keep your brain healthy essentially, and keep your feet planted on the ground and not completely go off the
Yes.
hinges.
Which are phenomenal foundational activities. So I love this because there, you know, we've had a lot of, even, you know, my friend Lori Creed, she used to talk about, you know, the 6-figure esthetician was a big deal. And, you know,
Right.
I think she's evolved into like really an abundant esthetician mindset, because there is a difference. You
Uh-huh.
can make $100,000 a year, you guys, and be non-profitable.
Oh, yes, you can.
Um, you can spend all your money in your lease, spend too much money on marketing, spend too much money on modalities. And just because you made 6 figures, which is
Oh,
different
yeah.
in 2024 than it was 10 years ago,
Yep.
it doesn't necessarily mean that you're profitable in your business. So it's something to evaluate and look at your big picture. And also I love your 10 daily activities, because
Yes.
you will overwhelm yourself with trying to accomplish everything, and then you won't make a move on anything.
Correct.
You sit in the corner and you're just like, you
Yes.
know, oh my God, I don't know what to do. So the thing also that I love about Brittany, you guys, she's very approachable. She's very easy to work with. She's not scary. She's not coming from a place of intimidation. She's very real. She shares her real life, you know, on Instagram, being a mom and all the things that go along with that, which I know a lot of 98% of people in the industry are female, still in the aesthetic space. I know there's a few guys that trickle in every once in a while, but for the most part, it's still women. So
Yeah.
very, very relatable. Brittany, so when you see when you're having a client or a new client that you're talking to, is there
Mhm.
any kind of a theme that you're seeing with estheticians that you're like, this goes across the board as far as like they're all asking this specific question?
I mean, I think the question that most people always ask is, how can I get more clients?
Yeah.
And that's not always the right question for that. Sometimes it is, depending on where you are in your business. But if you are pretty booked and you're making, 10 grand a month, but you don't have any money, the problem is not more clients. The
Right.
problem is you're not selling enough retail, you're overspending, you keep buying new modalities, you keep buying new skincare lines, on and on and on. You keep investing in education. And the thing about the education thing that I have a problem with is that people tend to get education, and I'm putting the air quotes, as opposed to taking action. So
Yes.
I'm all about the money that I spent when I did Face Reality was an incredible investment because I learned a lot and I went and applied it, and
Yes.
I used that education for a long time before I even got another new anything, right? And so
Yeah.
I think when people aren't getting results, they look for education to solve the results or a new modality or finding new clients.
Hmm.
But really, there's other sicknesses in the business, things that are going wrong, right?
Yeah.
It's like an acne client being like, uh, I need I like in the search of like the perfect cleanser, like the cleanser isn't really going to make or break your
Your whole
acne. There's so
business.
many
Right.
other things we need to
Yeah.
do. Like stop going to Sephora and buying 20 new cleansers. Like
Yes.
that's really not going to change anything. You
Hmm.
need to why are you eating, tubs of yogurt every day or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So
Triggers.
we have to really look at like what is happening in the business and not trying to make a quick fix by spending more money.
This is a really, really good point. It's the learned knowledge versus applied knowledge,
Yeah.
which is what it equates to wisdom. It's part of the
Yeah.
reason why it's part of my wisdom inspired skin health is Wish, that trademark that at the very beginning. The your so even the quest for education. So usually what we find in the industry is that something's not working in the business and then people start reaching for external things, right?
Yes.
I'm going to get this
Yes.
machine, I'm going to take this class, I'm going to do this. When really you got
Hydrogel.
to
Yeah.
yes, you got to look at the
Critical one.
mirror, look
Yeah.
at what you're doing in your business, and usually when you start looking at your what's currently happening, there are some things in that wheelhouse that you're doing right. There are
Yes.
some things where you're not doing 100% of everything wrong. I mean, you might
Right.
make some bad decisions. You're doing something right, and that is a foundational point to jump off from,
Yes.
right? You're doing something right. So we're going to do some more of those things, but having a daily 10, I love that.
Mhm.
Actionable items of things you can like focus on during the day. Like it really is that's pretty much a game changer. I do have a question for you, Brittany, and you may or may not have an opinion about this, but I have new estheticians asking me about software, like booking things,
Mhm.
especially when they're new, like Gloss Genius or Vagaro or Square. Like, do you have a preference in things that you worked with?
The cheapest, the better at the beginning. Whatever's gonna cost you to like Square used to be totally free, so I use Square, and I know
Yeah,
it's not free anymore. But whatever, like I think people think I need to spend a lot of money on a booking site, I need to spend a lot of money on a website, I need to spend a lot of money on the decor in my room, make it like so
yeah,
beautiful. I need to buy this beautiful ring light, I need to buy this beautiful this. Like, no. Like you need to connect with people, you need
yeah,
to do a great service, and you need to like sell them sorry for my microphone. Sell them skincare and things that are actually gonna change their skin. That's what will make you
yes,
money. All those other things you can do later when you have more money and more time, but that's not what a business makes. Some of my clients who, are hitting 10Ks do not have a website. I'm not saying don't have a website, but it is
yeah,
not a requirement to have a successful business. And you can make a lot of money and by just like talking to people. You don't have to it's like I think people like the idea of like they can sit in their room and buy something and then that would solve the problem versus like actually going and doing it, which is so much harder. It's so
Right.
much harder. And so that's where that mindset thing comes in because like I don't feel confident. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to talk to people. I don't know how to talk about. I mean, where I sometimes will talk to people and I'll be like, tell me about whatever, whether it's their skincare line they like or the modality, and they literally just say exactly what the website is that they bought from. Like they can't talk about it. They can't tell
Yeah.
me in a way that I even understand what's happening. And I'm in the esthetician industry.
Right. Right.
So it's like that's what you need to focus on. You don't need to like go buy another course about how to like more advanced skin knowledge. I'm not saying that's not a bad thing to do eventually, but you need to figure out the things you do, how to talk about it when people want to buy it and be
Yes.
interested in it.
Right. And not just willy-nilly keep buying extra things. And, I had this experience in previous brands where I would have a salon owner, spa owner reach out to us because they wanted the brand to save their business. And they
Okay.
felt that doing so, like if I partner with this brand because of what they
Okay.
would see in the industry, whether it was Aveda or it was
Right.
Dermalogica or cosmetics or face reality, this is going to save me. And one of my triggers is when an esthetician says to me, well, that didn't bring any clients in. This
Right.
product didn't bring any clients in. I'm like, well, the product's not going to really, you
No.
might get some referrals from a brand. I'm not saying that it doesn't ever happen, but
Yeah.
if you're going to base your whole business model off of partnering with a brand that's going to make your business successful, sorry guys,
No.
it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Doesn't matter how popular the brand is or how it's having a moment. Like you really have, it's an internal thing, not an
Mhm.
external thing. Like,
Yep.
no. Don't get crazy with that. Okay, so just a couple more questions before we share with everybody, before we're going to let everyone know where they can find you and all that good contact information. Brittany, looking ahead, so you having experience now being in the going to school, being in the treatment room, deciding to focus on acne, becoming certified, and then now doing culture coaching and consulting. What changes do you anticipate in aesthetics? Like, do you see what is, if you were to look in your crystal ball right now and look at the future of aesthetics in our industry, do you see any things coming around the horizon?
Hmm. I don't know. I guess I hope that I don't know if I can see things that are going to actually happen, but I hope that more estheticians, business owners, actually own their business like a business owner and make money for like a business owner and that
Yeah.
elevate the industry so that people that are graduating from high school, maybe, yeah, of course, they weren't going to own a really successful business right out of high school, but that is like, yeah, that can happen. It's not like, oh, well, like the waitress that was like, good luck, there's hundreds of estheticians and there's no jobs, right? But it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a really incredible career. You can change people's lives. You can really help people in their skin. And so I don't know if that means one day, represents to be an esthetician would be higher. I don't know. But I do think as a trade is being much more respected and people are taking it much more seriously. And I love that. I absolutely love that because I mean, it changed my life. I never thought I could do it and I did. And I've seen it change other people's lives. And so that's more my hope than a crystal ball vision.
Well, you know what? I think so a couple truths for the industry, you guys, is that you're not going to learn how to run and own and operate a successful business in aesthetic school. So just put that
Yeah.
down. Just,
Yeah.
you're not, that's not the purpose of the school is to get you to pass state board in whatever
Right.
state you're in. And we want to hold them we will hold them to a lot of accountability, but the reality is that's not what they're there for. So just know
Right.
that when you actually do get your license, you're going to require some external education, postgraduate education, whether it's waxing or lashes or brows or Brazilians or acne. You're going to go and find more education. Some of that education is going to be provided by brands that are supporting the products that they're actually selling. So just know
Yeah.
that's part of the equation. But your work is to really understand what you're going to enjoy doing because you're
Mm-hmm.
going to do a lot of it. So if you
Yes.
really don't like waxing, I have clients that are like, David, I hate waxing. I don't want to do Brazilians.
Same.
Then that's not your jam. And you're not going to
Right.
focus on that. You're not going to advertise yourself as that. You're going to say, oh, actually, I prefer doing this and I'm
Right.
going to promote my business as such. So
Yeah.
just know that. Brittany, so as we wrap this up, because I could again talk to you for hours and hours because we always have things to talk about. So some business tips that you would give to owners about being profitable. What
Mhm.
like three things would you give businesses, like some tidbits of information to leave them with, like thinking about you need to be really looking at these three things to maintain a profitable business?
Yeah. Well, I really quickly want to mention to add on to what you just said. So when I opened BLH Beauty, I was doing facials, even though I was an acne business. Even though I had no acne clients, I was doing
Yeah.
facials and wedding makeup for 2 more years. So every
Mm,
weekend, I was going out early in the morning and doing my makeup, and I'd come back and do any appointments I had. So I was working other specialties, but promoting, marketing, talking about being active, even though I had other things that I was doing. So
yeah.
you can still do whatever you're doing. Let's say you want to focus on acne, you have all facial clients, keep seeing that. Don't stop seeing the facial clients.
Right. Right. All
But
your facial clients are fired because you want to focus on acne.
no, but you just want to only talk about acne. No one ever knew I did facials. It was like my dirty secret, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and in makeup, I never put my makeup pictures on my Instagrams. I didn't want more makeup. I was happy to have the job,
Yeah.
but I didn't want that what people were coming to me for. So that's a really important part of that. You can have multiple things that you're doing in the beginning while you're learning what you like. And I also recommend getting the education on someone else's dime. So when I first became Face Reality certified, it was on someone else's dime. I did eventually do it again myself so I could have my own business, but
Yeah.
get the education on someone else's dime, learn to wax, whatever it is, learn to do makeup like I did, on paying someone else paying for it. So then if you really love it, yay. And if you don't love it, you just
Yes.
need your money.
Right. Right.
Um, I guess the three things I would say to be profitable would be to really pay attention to your numbers. And that is the thing that I think most people are really terrified about. And the thing I have to really help people do. They don't even know how or where to look at that, but it's basically looking
Mhm.
at how much your business brought in, including product sales, revenue, like revenue is product sales, service sales, and tips. And then minus all the expenses, so everything that you spend in your business, the products that you use on clients, the disposable supplies, your rent, anything that you spend in your business, and that's technically your profit. And if you're negative or you're not making any profit, there's something happening here. So either you don't have enough clients if you're a brand new business, or probably you're overspending is usually the
Mhm.
issue. And usually if you're overspending, it's because you're not really feeling confident in what you have as a business plan. And so you're trying to spend things to make that money back. So it's really kind of getting a handle on what is actually working in your business, what's actually making money in your business. Even if you're specializing in acne, but you're not making money in acne, don't keep investing more money in acne. Wait
Right.
until you make more money in acne until you invest more money in acne. Don't just
Yeah.
like keep throwing money at it, hoping that's going to solve the problem.
Yes.
So knowing your numbers would be number one. Number two is really keep your head in the sand and stop following other estheticians and
Yes.
engaging with their posts, even if they're your friends. I have esthetician friends. They knew I just didn't look at them because it would mess up my brain too much. So I'd say,
Yep.
oh my God, like one of my friends, Hope, she does acne in Green Bay. She's incredible. Hope just had this great before and after. We're not in the same city, but it would still mess with me.
Hmm.
So keep your head in the sand, focus on your clients, not other estheticians, and your business will do
Yes.
so much better if you focus on your clients. And then the third piece of advice is to learn boundaries so you can really take time off of work. You're not always working, because if you're always working, you will burn out so quickly, you'll be resentful of your clients, and you will want to walk away from your business.
Great advice. Great. I need to hear that. I'm going to literally, as you know, when we go through the editing process, I'm going to listen to that. I'm going to resonate with that over and over again because there's a false premise, you guys, when you open a business. It doesn't matter, me launching a brand, like
Yeah,
whatever money that people are like, oh, you're going to need this much money, multiply it by like 20 because you actually do need way more money than you think you need. But just understanding that you're, I hear people say, well, I want to open my own business so I can have more freedom and flexibility. I'm like, you guys, I never even know what day of the week it is.
right.
I literally never know. It's like last Saturday, we were totally like launched into the day like it was a Monday because we
Hmm.
had so many things that we needed to get over the finish line. Like So the boundary thing is important.
Yes.
I had one vacation scheduled last year and I basically got sick COVID and I was so mad because I didn't get any time. And I'm like, but you're
Oh,
not going to get this time back. So the
no.
balance of having all those things is really super important.
Yeah.
And I love all of that. So Brittany, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. I did Brittany's podcast last week, you guys, which I think is going to come out this coming Monday. You're going to
Yes.
drop that.
Yeah. Yes.
And we are both in the industry to support the success of you individual aesthetic providers wherever you are in your aesthetic career. So I love to support that and promote that and continue to do that. Brittany, tell everybody where people can find you.
Yes, on Instagram, I'm at esthetician.coach, or if my website is theestheticiancoach.com. So either of those places, you can find me. I have some free resources you can get. I have a podcast called The Estheticians Earning More. I usually
Yes.
post most Mondays unless I'm having a rough family week, where I really just
Life.
give actionable things that you can do to earn more money in your business and what that looks like, from selling products, marketing, boundaries, all the things we talked about today.
I love it. And you know what? We'll definitely have to have a future conversation again because there's always going to be some hot topics to talk about.
So
And
many.
I mean, it's never ending and it's never going. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time. We'll be in touch soon.
Yay, thank you, David.